Welcome everyone to the NL8rUA Podcast. You're probably noticing something is that I'm speaking English because we have an English-speaking guest today. So welcome to NL8rUA, the podcast where you will hear stories from Ukrainians, volunteers, and other people involved in the war in Ukraine. Today we're on a table with two volunteers who personally brought me into the world of volunteering for Ukraine. Their names are Christopher and Otto. Actually met them at my work, coming around one day, and we got into a conversation, I guess, and it started rolling, and I saw your ink, and we were getting into the conversation about Ukraine, and it was all really interesting, and I believe I actually, when you showed your tattoo, I spoke Ukrainian to you, I remember.
Something like that, yeah.
I said something in Ukrainian.
And,
because I thought with the tattoo, you must have been a Ukrainian, but... Can you show it to the audience? Are you comfortable with that?
I don't mind, yeah.
One is your own side, so to speak.
Yeah, the U.S. Eagle and the first words of the Constitution, we the people.
Cool.
And, the Ukraine Vishvanka on both of them, and American flag and Ukrainian symbol.
Very awesome. Well, in a while, these guys are going to tell something about themselves. In the meantime, I would like to ask you to subscribe to our channel, like the video if you can. If you want to stay up to date with everything we do, you can subscribe to our Patreon or be a channel member, and you can really make a difference for this channel. Well, guys, can you introduce yourselves to the audience a little bit?
Sure. My name is Christopher. I'm a U.S. citizen, and I've been helping in the war in Ukraine as an unpaid volunteer since very close to the beginning, just a couple of weeks after it started. And I've been here ever since, done a fair variety of things at this point. And,
Yeah, and I'm Otto, and I started also just 2 weeks after the war started. And I thought it was one time, but yeah, I'm still in.
Escalated a bit, right?
yeah.
And about your backgrounds.
I have a career in, I'm retired from my career in law enforcement in the U.S. as fairly high risk. And I was at the same time a senior software engineer. And I basically focused on those for a very long time and not a whole lot of sleep in between. So that's the majority of my background that applies to here as well.
Yeah, and I'm ex-military. I've been in Iraq, so I saw that there were people in need in Ukraine. So, yeah, that triggered. I had to do something.
This is also your why, the reason that moved you to start doing this.
Yeah, and it's also the reason that I don't want to stop, because I know what we're doing makes a difference. And that's also the challenge.
Right.
To let everybody know that they can also make a difference, even if it's small part.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for you, it's obviously a bit more far from home, so to speak. What's your personal motivation that really triggered you into just going there, just doing the step and?
Well, I think I think I saw, I have enough awareness of conflict with the Russia's style of attacking other countries, et cetera. And so they don't, I knew before they invaded, this whole training exercise thing was silly. So I had a bit of a jump start in trying to prepare and consider what I would do. But I spent my law enforcement career trying to heavily spend it in ways that would focus on helping protect or so to speak, I guess, women and children.
Vulnerable people.
Yeah, in a large degree. Vulnerable people is a better way to put it, yeah. And more accurate. And so when I got the piece of information right when the invasion started that Russia was taking Ukrainian children into Russia and removing documents and things and scattering them around the country, there's a lot of reasons that just hits you. And so there's a lot of reasons why I decided to come. I verified it with family first, and of course, I gave it a 50-50 whether I'd be able to come back, because I didn't know what I was getting into. But I know I was motivated, I know I'm trained, I know I could find many spots that I could help, I just didn't know what yet. And so the motivation was primarily to immediately try and help stop the children being taken, to get them safer and protected, as many as I could. But as far as motivation to come, there's a lot. A couple are, I can see how many ways this can turn into World War III, many, and maybe more so even now, the longer this goes on. We made a promise as a country that if Ukraine gave up the nuclear weapons, that Russia and America would help protect them in a war.
You're talking about the Budapest Memorandum.
Yes. And when Russia attacked, in my mind immediately I saw, look, I know where things stand with China. I think I understand that pretty well outside of the rhetoric in the media, et cetera, and with Russia. And, I think I understand why America didn't immediately commit forces. One of the reasons, we have a lot of tension around the world, and we can't necessarily handle all of that if we start committing, in other places, if we commit forces, just like right now, maybe Iran, maybe North Korea, different China, whatever, they start pushing in ways to see what we'll do, what we can get away with. And I don't think it's wise to try and just have a war with everybody at once. But I do think that other bad choices might happen where they'll start one if they think we're too focused somewhere else. So I think our government was in a bit of a trap and a bit of a vice, so to speak. And I think it's my job as a citizen, my duty, if I'm trained, if I have the ability, if I want other people to come help us, if we have a similar problem, all of these reasons. And the doctor, our agreement with to help protect Ukraine. If I think my government can't do it, then I think it's my responsibility. And
Sounds absolutely noble in my opinion.
I think it should be. I agree that it might be in the number of people that are doing that. It's a shame.
Yeah.
I think, and I get that a lot. Called a hero or it's courage or something. And it's in my brain, it's not that at all. I know what real heroes are, and there's many of them. I consider that in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, this is exactly what should be normal. We're all taught the golden rule or whatever we call it when in our countries when we're young. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or treat other people how you want to be treated. I think we all understand this.
Right.
This is what that is. It's
I totally
that simple.
recognize in what you say there. It's to me, it's kind of the same.
I've seen it in you,
it's what should be done. It's like, well, it's the same with people from Ukraine who are also here, and they see your efforts and they're thanking you. I feel. I like it, but I also feel kind of uncomfortable by it. It's in the sense of you don't need to thank me. It's okay. It feels like something that should be done, so I'm doing it. So in that sense,
I've
do
had
recognize.
to learn to let them because they get something out of that too. It lets them do something by showing appreciation.
Right.
But I've had to work very hard on learning that.
Yeah, I had it also because they, thank you for your help. Yeah, I'm not done yet. Come on. So in the beginning, I said, I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
And now I say, I'm not done yet. So
maybe it's a good answer to say thank me when it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna do a barbecue.
Right.
I already talked with a lot of people that we're gonna do
we're
a
gonna
big
have
barbecue.
a lot of barbecues. We're gonna take a big tour.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a big circle around Ukraine and including Crimea.
Yeah.
That's a good note. Side note. Crimean beach party, right?
Yeah. Hey, man, we've earned it. Everybody involved in there that we support, including us, has earned it and then some.
Awesome. Well, you've already dove into this a little bit, but what have you been doing for Ukraine? This is a question to either or both of you.
Yeah.
And what are you still doing for Ukraine? And maybe how has that changed?
First, I started with one touring car to the border on good luck and a lot of information that I get from some people. And that was the first trip. That was in March. And I was thinking, it's just one time. But there was money left. So I was thinking, we can do that again. So I start planning, and I found out that the touring cars were very expensive at that moment because everybody wants to rent one.
Yeah.
So I said, we're going to switch to small vans because otherwise we cannot drive and we cannot bring the stuff. So, and every time there was money left. Or every time I was thinking, oh, we don't have the money yet for the full trip, and at the last day the money was there every time, and also the drivers. Everybody took a part in organizing and helping, and we have a garage that sponsored the van. We got a lot of discounts on renting vans, so it was so awesome that there was so big group of people helping.
Yeah.
And sometimes people also say to me, yeah, you're so busy. No, everybody is busy. I'm only pulling on some strengths and make some phone calls, and it gets done. And now we did first 10 trips in total with 35 small vans and a touring car. And yeah, my warehouse was getting fuller and fuller, more stuff, more stuff. I worked with Olga also she's also a volunteer, and we're working now together, and she is also very good in collecting stuff. So we are challenging each other to find more stuff.
Right.
So sometimes it's a battle. And in that same period, we also heard that there was a other group, Ukraine Express, in Groningen, that didn't have any stuff to ship to the border.
Right.
So I was thinking, hey,
What a great problem.
yeah, I have a lot of stuff. We collected so much, and that started to roll, and then there came another group, Keep Them Warm, and now we're already busy for a year together, and all because I saw a chance, because I saw the war was going to take too long.
Right.
So if we want to keep the sport and keep the continuity, we have to work together, and the more the better. So we're now filled up last week, trip 62, and it's around fan 125, 130, and we also shipped 10 trucks full with medical stuff, mattresses, generators. So, yeah, we did a lot.
Yeah.
For over more than $2 million only on medical supplies. Yeah,
So-
everything.
And how did the two of you met then in this whole process?
We met the first time that I was in Warsaw. That was trip 5. That was
Okay.
And that was my second trip.
in May somewhere.
Yeah.
In the
May
beginning.
22.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was my second trip. The first one I met Yasha, and then the second one
Yeah.
you were there too.
Yeah, and it the connection was just good. The chemistry was okay, and it felt okay, and we can talk for hours.
And often do, yeah.
Yeah.
On the phone. Well, part of it too is I
Yeah.
drive alone the vast majority of time,
Yeah,
and so, I'm usually totally fine, and I've got a lot of stuff going on, planning, learning, all this stuff. And I'm fine with alone time, just decompress because I'm very active when I'm moving. So, but sometimes, yeah, it's just we talk about life stuff or politics stuff or planning stuff, and not just logistics. But very often we always start logistics, and most often talk all that in supply, and we verify a lot of stuff. But
most of the time I call him. I've got some news.
yeah.
But so when you met, you were doing
Yeah.
sort of basically doing the same things, or was it?
Yeah, I can kind of get up to that point. My start was to come over. I came over, and I was supposed to meet another American here. We both gave our resumes and some things to kidsave.org. Basically, when I was vetting different or verifying different organizations, I didn't just come over here and jump in. I wanted to join somebody. I knew my skills. I wanted to join somebody who was already actively doing it, not somebody who was starting something or had an idea. I wanted to join somebody who was already active and working and having results. And I found kidsave.org because I found out they'd been working for years with Ukrainian employees and volunteers, taking care of the foster children and orphans in Ukraine, and trying to help change the political system to care for those individuals better and
So
help.
they were established over
Yeah,
there.
for years, and already had a lot of connections. And on top of that, these guys, many of them, these drivers that couldn't leave Ukraine were, I mean, not a law enforcement or military man amongst them. They were all from clerks and machinists, you name it, and they're running back and forth to occupied territory, bringing out bus loads and vans, and I mean many. They made a small fleet very quickly of vans and buses, and they're working together to just bring them out 24/7. So since I found out most of these details, I made contact with their CEO, sent my resume. I didn't hear back right away for about a week while I was shutting down my business and getting my life in order, making out a will, all this stuff, because I don't want to leave family and friends high and dry if something happened to me, and that's possible, especially in the beginning when there's chaos, And so I didn't come in, I don't think, unwise about it. I think I was very realistic about the possibilities. I tried to be, anyway, so they were great, and I said I didn't hear back, so I said I got one email after about a week that said, "Yeah, we need help," or whatever. We'd love some help, but no details, no answers back after that. And I was like, "Look, I'm guessing that you're busy. You have so many things going on, so I'm getting a plane ticket and I'm heading over there. I've contacted 2 other organizations. If you need me, let me know at any point, and we'll coordinate. Otherwise, good luck. You guys are awesome." Turns out, literally headed to the airport and got the call from the CEO and the message, etc., and found out that they'd gotten a pile of resumes, hundreds, and they had sorted through them, and they vetted some backgrounds, and they chose mine and one other gentleman who was previous American military, and we were going to meet up there, and they were going to basically coordinate us, put us in touch with the Ukrainian commander. Pavlo Shula is his name, and amazing guy. That guy's a hero. There's a lot of heroes in that group. And anyway, so immediately hit the ground. The other gentleman wasn't going to be able to show up. He had a little bit of delay, so I went ahead and went into Ukraine on my own. I'd already made some other connections and had some stuff from home, and so I hooked up with them. I did a couple trips into occupied territory, brought some people out, got injured pretty good during one of them, and well worth it. Got the job done, and from that point, both because of the injury and because there's other drivers able to kind of had that area at that point, came back out of Ukraine, met up, and then from that point, that gentleman and I worked together for about 3 months, mainly. KidSafe determined their biggest need. Their drivers were doing okay, and they had that stuff. They couldn't come out of the country to get any supply to bring in. So, and there was all these drivers and stuff were taken up. KidSafe couldn't afford and couldn't find people to take it into where it needed to go.
Yeah. So the situation in Ukraine was more or less organized and stuff, but from there it was.
And what they needed from me wasn't my skills right there, right then. The drivers were willing to work without medical training at that time. They didn't have the time to stop and learn the stuff. They didn't have, and me as an individual wasn't needed. There were the excitement and whatever was. No. My training would have helped. I might have made it more efficient, but not more efficient than bringing in 10 tons of food per week and medical supplies and body armor and blah, 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 blah to help our drivers and others.
So basically to get the needed stuff to the border so they can...
Because it wasn't even just the drivers coming, the amount of drivers to get over the borders were slow. So for whatever reasons, American passports didn't get much hassle going through the borders. They didn't check us as much. They didn't think we were that very likely to be terrorists or doing something bad. So my trips through the border were much faster than the average of others. I could have the border guards open up the border for me even when they didn't want to do that. I would kind of figure it out with them and get them to understand, look, you're limiting supply that's going to help people. Let me through the damn border. I mean, we'd get to that point and they'd agree and we'd finally, but I could do that. Whereas they were making the line of cars back, even humanitarian aid, the Ukrainian drivers would have to wait overnight, or there were just jam ups like that, misses in communication or understanding the rules, or they'd change. So anyway, fast forward, I started doing that. This other gentleman and I, we started, the other American, we basically maintained a warehouse at the border. And then I would run supply, or we would run supply in, depending on who had to watch the warehouse. And we started getting other volunteers involved. Some of that supply we needed to go up to Warsaw or Krakow or wherever, and to go get it and then bring it all the way down. Other times the people could bring it down, or we could just buy it and ship it to the border and we'd take it in. A lot of moving parts all the time. It was different every couple of days. There's an emergency every 2 to 3 days that'll change the forward-looking plans, and you have to just adapt immediately, figure it out. So on these Warsaw, so my first trip over the border was with a a man from the Netherlands that was living in Poland and had been volunteering with KidSafe. He was the one that first showed me how the border worked and took the other American and I over with supply. And once we did, just show us how to do it so we could do it quick. Very smart, driven guy. Loved that guy to death. He's the one that then we met in Warsaw the next trip with the supply. And then on the second trip to Warsaw, he was connected with Otto. He hooked us up together.
Yeah, and it was also interesting because I had nobody there that I knew.
On the Ukrainian side.
No, on the Polish side.
Okay, yeah.
So Frank and Koen, the fried bakers, they were there. They helped me with connecting to people. I learned a lot from them, and they gave me also a lot of information. So I found a journalist by them, and she connected me with your contacts, and so I heard about KidSafe, and I thought, yeah, that's a good one.
So then your network was connected to your network, and then the change from Holland to...
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I was inside, after we met a couple of times on the outskirts of Warsaw, they'd bring vans, and we'd bring a truck or a van or whatever we could get, and then we'd cross load, and then we'd have a dinner or something just so we could kind of compare details and see what we could do. But it was real light level, and it was with a big group. It wasn't just like Otto or something.
It was also with the drivers, and sometimes we had 3 vans, 4 vans, but because we picked up refugees the next day and bring them to the Netherlands.
During these dinners and when we would transfer the load, you talk with everybody, and I noticed Otto was very driven. He seemed the most energetic. He was very knowledgeable. He was listening and asking a lot of questions and listening to details a lot. And he was just very clear-eyed, very focused, just very aware of, and kind of, you could tell he was very focused on what we were doing and why we were there, not just like having a quick meal or, just, hey, where are you from or whatever, not just that. Yeah, and
no, not just for the picture.
Yeah,
so that connected on sort of.
I noticed that, and it
level.
very much stood out to me. And then I don't remember kind of our conversations or if we had anything in between, but I remember I was driving back from one of the Carpathian trips. I had dropped some stuff out down there, and I was about to go into the middle of the country. And on my way back out, Otto called me. It was just like driving rain. I just got back into cell phone range, and traffic wasn't the greatest and all this stuff. And I remember I was thinking I wasn't going to pick up the phone. I was just going to wait till I get back, maybe at the border where you have a long time to wait or something like that. I was just like, and that's when it dawned on me. I remembered, oh no, it is Otto, because I glanced at it. It's like, oh, it's Otto, because from the dinners and stuff. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I picked up and we talked, and that's when he was asking. You were asking the really, really good questions and kind of what you're doing. How's your timetable? Could you use this? All that kind of stuff. Yeah. And it was what stuck out to me is it was empathetic. He was doing what I do with the next step in my chain, which is every time I get there, it's not my job. I have a set amount of supply, whatever. But I also ask everybody that is influential or a leader, or I can see they're having problems. I say, what is it you need? What is your biggest funnel point that's keeping you from scaling the good stuff you're doing? What's your risk? What are you worried about happening? What do you see around you from those things? He was doing that with me and telling me his forward plans, etc. And
and by that way, I was checking my plans if they were realistic to investigate and put time in it.
Efficient.
Yeah.
So you were using or checking with Christopher if your way of working was efficiently and.
And
we weren't talking partnership or anything. Yeah. He was just, it was a normal conversation like we're having right now.
Okay.
It was just, hey, how's it going? Yeah, I was just wondering, I know you're probably busy, but it wasn't where you at, how you been, whatever. It was just, hey, I was thinking about this, and are you going to do this? Whatever. I loved it. It's great. Yeah. Don't waste time with the other stuff. Let's what do you need?
It sounds like the way you describe it. It's like on the way you work and what you do. It was like he's a South Pole and you're a North Pole, and it just clicked and connected. And
absolutely.
It was like for the job you were doing, you were what Otto was needed, and Otto was what you
100%. I didn't know how much, because
you didn't realize at the point.
No, then it was extra work to me, maybe, when I already had a full load and not enough reliable volunteerism and things like that, skilled, good judgment, etc., to manage it and to get it. We were already really kind of understaffed for what we were doing and overtasked, because everything's an emergency and everything's needed right now. And so it kind of fell potentially into that category. But what stuck out to me is he's asking questions. He needs something. When I know people need information or context, whatever, I don't deny anybody that, because I don't know. I don't know the butterfly effect. I don't know what they're representing, and I don't have time to find out or judge it. So I don't judge it. I just know, can I help this person or not? And I was seeing him both get information, and he treats things that way as well. That's his style. And so it's, yeah.
Yeah, and from there, what you didn't know was that in the beginning I had around 15 projects in Ukraine, and I noticed by myself, this is too much. I have to narrow it down to a few and commit to them.
I remember you telling me that later, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a while later.
And a while later, I told you, I was also, because...
You said it because I picked up the phone all the time.
Yeah.
You decided and you saw me driven.
Yeah, and
stuck with me,
the way you worked was also a match. And you were there every time that we spoke and every time in Warsaw. So...
Yeah, I didn't ignore calls and stuff.
No. And it was not just... that I also noticed there were other groups who also needed the stuff, but we tested in going to Krakow, and we did for going to Krakow. The trip took 24 hours. Yeah, that was logistic, not an option for me.
Not me,
because I had to go in Saturday morning, leaving, and Sunday evening back.
Right.
Yeah, so you can't go that far south.
So I
east.
couldn't take that route, and so I was going back, and then the students came, so we could make a switch, and make it easier for everybody. And now trip 62.
Yeah, and we were mostly supplied by KidSave in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I volunteered solely for KidSave in the beginning. And they purchased the majority of their supply with their donations. And as their donations trailed off, which I think started literally after the second month, it was very fast. First month, lots of donations. Second month, about 50%. Third, fourth, etc., tiny, just small. No matter kind of which way you go, you send pictures out, you do interviews, you do all those things, but it was a lot less. And then dwindling from there up until now. So it was extremely hard. So they would rely more on donors for the supply as they were able to buy less and less supply from outside of Ukraine. We had a lot of big issues at the same time, like the diesel being hit, etc. Well, we have 25 vans, a couple city buses, etc., and then me running all over, trying to get supply, and all of a sudden diesel's hard to get in there. So I have to figure out how to run diesel in on top of all this other stuff, but without as much budget and things. So it's a lot of really big things that I was able to solve in that way for them. But what I couldn't solve, there was no time, there was no outside effort gathering supply for free, etc. We had some volunteers try, but it was not successful. And so it became more and more where I'm relying on the supply coming from Otto's group as he's growing it. And so we communicated a lot about that. I told him, look, I really have to rely on you with this. You have to and it's fine if you don't have it, but you have to let me know. We have to plan forward. And as Otto, over time a little bit, as Otto would send the groups, either I would come meet him like a Warszawa or something for a while. We were still doing that. And then as the drivers started bringing it south, which worked great because then I could spend my time more in Ukraine, because I'm also adding stuff what I'm doing in Ukraine, combat medic training and things like this that were very important. Keeping our drivers safer for one, so they can bring out people, but also civilians and military and whatever. What allowed me to do that was, we didn't really communicate about that, but what allowed me to do that was that Otto was coordinating to have the students bring these loads down. That let me have more time in Ukraine in these places that I could do that. And that was just a tangential effect. We had many of those that where I was able to help other people a lot more, because I'm not lazy about it. There's always a list of stuff that I'd love to be doing more to magnify the effect of the real heroes,
Yeah, and we talked a lot about it, and that's also what I see with some other groups. They don't talk, they don't communicate, and sometimes I think, man, we talk like we're a married couple.
I almost said that earlier today.
You certainly have this vibe a little bit, but
And we spent enough time around each other's real life that I can see that balance too, and we really we do kind of have that.
So and that's why it's working.
Yeah. Well, and
It's listening, right? Communication. Listening.
Asking the right questions, and say if you cannot do it, that it's not an option.
Right.
Yeah, we're very clear about the goods, the bads, what we can and can't do, what we like and don't like, maybe even about each other a little bit, but I think we've grown to have a lot of respect. I feel it, and I definitely have it. And that, because of how he is, it's only grown. The more I know, I mean, honestly, about you, your family, just how you are, what you do, how you view things, that it helps smooth out the difficulties. Just having that there, because it's the trust. You have to have that no matter what, and however you get it. I may get it differently than him, but I can tell we have that. Everything else can be figured out, just like any good relationship, a marriage, your professional relationships, whatever.
Friendship, work, whatever.
When he called me, as an example, when he called me to say, as part of the logistic part, when he called me to say that the students were not able to make it because of the bad weather coming up, we had already discussed before the first winter. What we spent a lot of some ideas kind of brainstorming what Russia might do. Where's the biggest hits that could be? Obviously, with the temperature, etc., we had talked about power outages and trying to get generators before the winter hit. We did as KidSave with other donors, but specifically, Otto and I, honestly, for about a month before that, had already been kind of doing that and feeling it out. We were able to help. I mean, it's kind of a long story, so I won't tell it, but we were able to have what I consider a massive effect inside of Ukraine. In an area that saved a lot of lives, just from what came out of us brainstorming and starting down that path.
And looking ahead.
Just as how do we spend our effort? Where does it feel most efficient? What's most likely going to happen? Because you never know. None of that might have happened, but we got lucky that the most likely things from you have to really look at the politics, trim away all the entertainment value of the media. We both read a lot of media and then compare kind of what we think is real from all of this stuff.
What's happening in America and what's happening here on the news and what we see on the internet, what we can find ourselves.
What he likes. Relevant stuff.
And the media that he likes is different and has access to and things is different than my informational sources.
Right.
I have, some people informational sources that are in great spots and willing to support. I've got a good habit. I'm awake a lot, so I hit certain news sources and I see certain patterns to kind of trim away the bullshit. And it, anyway. And so when we compare notes, we really help each other keep constant and see things that I definitely wouldn't see on my own. Like I've had many times that he's shown me details or talked to people in Ukraine and things to help me understand something I had no idea was going on. And so I think we do that for each other because I interact with a lot of levels of a lot of different kind of biomes inside of Ukraine. I have a lot of access in different areas, and I have a great relationship and reputation because I'm no bullshit and I work my ass off. Nobody works harder than me. Yeah. They may work even with me, but nobody works harder than me. And I prove it because that itself is motivation for the people there.
Right.
I have to have them see that I am not just blah, 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 and that I'm coming back. And I say, all of it, that I'll do what I say and whatever. And I'll communicate if I can't, whatever, all this stuff. Well, I had that trust with Otto. And so when he says the students can't come, winter's coming, the weather and, all this stuff, the schedules and things, it just doesn't line up. To me, I'm like, oh, wow, that's huge of a problem because that means I have to come to Netherlands or I have to wait until the spring. Right? I mean, that's basically what it was.
That was the problem.
And so to me, it's just like any other things. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to Netherlands and driving. I'm going to get to experience more of Europe and drive a bunch of crappy roads. Weather, And so that's what I started doing. And it was there's been a couple of times where I've done over 5,000 kilometers because I've done twice in a week. Yeah. Really long runs with not a lot of sleep, real long runs. Stuff like that. And it was the best thing in the world because me coming here, not only did it give me a little bit of a respite and a break because we needed the time to talk and to plan and things, but Otto and meeting the people here, it gave me context and it let me rest, which I needed more than I realized, just a little bit more than I was getting here and there.
Also some extra peace of mind, I guess, because now
a lot.
You've seen more of the network, more of
I've told so many people that I've seen a lot of Polish volunteers. We're in Poland. I have seen more volunteers helping in this directly, just with my interaction, that were from Netherlands. I've seen more Dutch people bringing supply to me. As far as us singling out the nations, I've probably met 100 nations that are helping of people. I mean, way up there, a lot. But I've interacted with more Dutch people and seen more than any other single, including American. Just period. It's been more from Netherlands, and I would say that without an exception, I don't believe a lot in you can profile things and see people by stereotypes, but I'm not racist. I don't think of people that way, whatever. Like, you recognize stereotypes like, oh, I don't know, like Americans are this way, or like aggressive in general compared to these people or whatever. Like it's, so I kind of think that's true as a stereotype, but I never judge individuals by that about anything. Everybody's a unique person. So I never judge anybody like that. But as a stereotype, I would say from my experience, I love Dutch people so much, just because as a stereotype, they're, honest, hardworking, no bullshit. They tell you what they're thinking. They're very direct.
A lot of Americans don't like it. Judging from the story.
On a stereotype, there's a
right?
culture like passing in the hall in a corporation. Oh, hey, how you doing? But they're just walking by. They're not going to listen to the answer, or they don't want to know certain details that are uncomfortable. Oh, that's too much information. That's a saying that we have. Too much information. TMI. Don't tell me. And I hate this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, you don't like uncomfortable truths. Well, welcome to being a human. I mean, okay. Yeah. But what you're really saying is, I don't want to be wiser, or I don't want to know about you, or whatever. All these things that are all negative. So anyway, and not all Americans are like that. I would say the vast majority, they don't think that way, but sometimes they have habits that from the culture that can have that
cultural
result.
Habits, right?
Yeah, that aren't so good. But as a stereotype, I'm not just blowing smoke or something. Absolutely serious. I can name many volunteers that, I'm connecting with one while I'm here. I just rode up here with a couple more. They blow me away. They inspire me by far, because when I see somebody working that hard, when I see somebody that has the honest communication, etc., it's efficient. It doesn't waste time. It doesn't waste part of your life in normal life. It's awesome, but it establishes trust and things, and you just know the people you want to hang out easier.
You see what you get, you know what you get.
Yeah, and hardworking, responsible. They take ownership of, as a stereotype, taking ownership and responsibility of things. It just all of this, it saves so much time and effort and builds trust.
So do you have any sort of, not necessarily an explanation, but maybe a thought about why that is, that you meet so many Dutch people volunteering here and being like the way they are?
I've asked
them. Both of you?
We know why you do, but the most common answer I get is that it's a sense of responsibility from, realistically, in my opinion, looking at it kind of like World War II. If you have to do something, if you can't just sit at home and wait if there's a problem. If you can help, you should help, because otherwise it may end up at your doorstep very soon.
And it's in our backyard.
Yeah.
So,
but then again, that would be for Belgians also,
I've also heard
people, French people.
At the same time, I've also heard that they're, that the Dutch person I'm asking says that they're very conscious that you're a wealthy nation. You're a very wealthy nation in amongst comparison to, kind of many other countries involved in this, and that there's a responsibility that you take, what we call a tacit responsibility that you take on yourself to help others in need, when you're able to do so more than a lot of your neighbors. And, all of these things, I'm not just hearing the words from these people. They're describing to me, they're putting the words to what I see as action. Yeah. And I could not respect them more. Whatever their motivation is, I appreciate them being honest with me, because it's amazing, and I'm seeing the result all the time.
Yeah, and it resonates with your own acting or your own thinking.
That's why I say it feels like my people. Like I'm there doing. It was so long that.
So it's not like your ancestors come from somewhere around here.
No. No, who knows? Who knows? I honestly, you have to think this way in the type of law enforcement I was doing, or I would have been dead very quickly. No joke. I worked most of the time by myself, and it was very high risk. I've done that job internationally. There's a few times that I've done it in other countries, et cetera, where I didn't speak the language, et cetera. That gave me some comfortability to come here and operate by myself, because most people need more sleep than I do. And I would say that I'm a self-motivated, self-driven person, and I can be hard to keep up with sometimes. And because of the job I'm doing, I can't let people slow me down. Not in a bad way. We just have to operate separately doing the same thing. And I've had that happen. There's many times I've traveled with people, and it's a short time and we make it work, and then we travel independently. So anyway, I don't want to lose the point here. I just, Yeah, there's a lot of things I respect
Okay.
about Dutch people that the more I get to know, and I'm not just blowing smoke about the podcast. Where I mean, I've told you this before.
Yeah,
I've told you, I've told Otto
Yeah.
the names of the individuals and what and exact. I could talk for hours about each one, about why and all these other details about them on why I believe it. It's because I know so much about them and I see the result and I know what they're doing. Olga, I mean, my gosh, I mean, so many people, they're spending their lives without earning money. So many Netherlands people helping in this conflict. For people, many of them don't ever go to Ukraine or whatever. They just know it from whatever they see or whoever they know, and they're contributing. And it does matter. It is the right thing. I don't care what anybody reads or sees in the media or whatever. You know, if it's not about politics, it's not about religious reasons or any of these other things that people normally fight about. It's literally about how humans and how they treat other humans and how they want to be treated. That's it. That's as complicated as this has to be. Everything else is kind of bad learning that we get used to rationalize as we get older.
It's something that's really frustrating to me personally. Looking at this conflict is basically what you say. It's a really simple matter, simple matter of right and wrong, and
there's
well,
no Ukrainians attacking Russia home.
No,
I mean,
and I like the metaphor you were using a little while back. Like, there's being smoke blown in your face while it's a really simple matter.
Yeah.
And
I don't need Facebook ads or CNN or Fox News or Al Jazeera or anybody else to give me any analysis or any conclusions. I don't need any of that. I need to know the facts like a real journalist would give me. And then they can shut up and find advertising revenue a different way other than lying to me or trying to get me to believe their politics.
I must say that in that sense, the both of you you had the long-term vision of this really good in your head.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
the moment, the second time we met, we were loading a fan at Otto's place, and I was, I guess, overly optimistic because I was seeing stuff on my channels. And I'm more the guy who watches certain YouTube creators. There's also some really good informed guys also in between them.
Yeah.
But also some
I do that too.
Some hopelessly optimistic guys, and I guess I shared that hopeless optimism. Like, when the big punch comes, the Russians will run.
Yeah.
And they didn't run.
Yeah.
And I think you guys had that vision really well in front of you. Like,
they're building the industry in the two biggest countries.
Prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah.
Kind of attitude.
Yeah.
That,
Always.
that really works well for you.
And we
That pays
prepare a
dividends.
lot for the worst.
Yeah, and work hard when you have time, and when there is no time, you have your things done, and that's and I also use think big or go home. So
I hear this all the time. He reminds me of this, even when I'm cranky or whatever. He'll say something like that, and he says it so lightheartedly that I can get very, I've lost friends, really good friends, and I don't process this well, and I can't push it off to the end. I don't know when the end is. I have to be functional, and I don't have a lot of outlets. I can't just go take 5 hours and use a heavy bag and go for a long swim and do these things, and so I don't have a lot of stress outlets. So now and then I can be in my own head pretty cranky, but I try and be professional, do my job, whatever. I'm not ducking phone calls or treating people like crap, whatever. Just, stone cold professional, get it done. But yeah, he'll pop off like, go big or go home, or what's
I fixed something. I got some.
Go big and go home. Work hard, play hard. All these, and they're all true. They all, it's right, and it kind of brings me back because he's sounds jovial enough, and we talk about serious things. We can get down, but it does bring me back up and kind of just like, knock it off, you big pansy. Look at the guys in the trenches. This is nothing. Your first world problems. This is nothing compared to them. I sleep in my van almost always. Like it's cold, it's whatever, but it's a couple hours. It's whatever. And at some point, I will be warm or getting free good food from people as I go through or whatever. It is nothing compared to the hardship and the risk that people are going every day. Like if I go do trainings there or give them supply there or something like that, and I'm there a couple days, or maybe I temp in for somebody and do some more drastic and kind of risky stuff. I do that now and then. It's nothing. I'm a visitor. I'm a tourist to what they are doing every day.
Yeah, so that keeps you going in these times
because
when it's
I am
hard.
leaving them and I feel guilty because I know what they need until I get back. And I don't know how much of an effect that's going to have. I may get back and they may not have needed it at that time. But aggregate, if you average it out over months or years, the lives he's saved or I've saved that we don't know about. And I will tell you, I never got this in law enforcement. Whenever you hear news later on down the road, it's almost always worse. It's almost always bad. You get so negative, and you start to see the world that way, even when you don't want to. When you try really hard not to, you look at humans like, man, there's a lot of us, maybe more than half, that are just, we're. And here is the opposite. It is the best cure for PTSD stuff, or I don't know.
You mean Ukraine?
What my sense of fulfillment in what I do in Ukraine, the sacrifice and heroism that I see everyday normal people, I mean, not one or two, we're talking hundreds that have personal experience, not that I've heard about or seen on TV, that I know I can tell you their story. I've met them, I've talked to them, I've hugged them, I've whatever, had them cry on me, whatever, bleed on me. It's just, there's those people we've affected.
Yeah.
They know Otto's now. I tell everybody that this applies from this person. This says, whatever, what do you need, all this stuff. And I'll call him and see. I've put Otto on video with some people to verify stuff, or to just so they can say thank you because they really want to. It makes them feel better. These are all morale boosts to them. That feels good to me. When I show up and they're like, it's not, I don't know, fake smiles and whatever. Like there's a picture I think I showed you too of when the Nets delivery from Otto.
You showed me a couple,
Okay, this guy, this master sergeant in this area, they needed this camouflage netting, this anti-aircraft netting, whatever. And I can't talk about it a lot, but the thing is, this guy's lost friends, he's lost family, he's got a hard job with not enough supply, and if every time they fail their job a little bit, people very easily die. He has a serious, there is no more really a lot of stress and importance on what he does and his battalion, and this is true of, I'm sure, many I work with. Anyway, I've seen the situation a lot. I've never seen this guy smile the many times I've seen him and talked to him, whatever. This one delivery, it was so important. It was more than they expected of something they really needed, whatever, and you should have seen this. This guy's face was, when he saw the amount and when he saw the quality of what was brought, just the biggest grin. Like I saw him after about 30 seconds
like
that
relief.
he realized, and just pure joy and appreciation. Like so many things mix into what like the morale. Just everything went up, and I'd say they have fairly high morale anyway. Like they really do. I'm shocked. I don't even know how it works, but they really. I've been around a lot of line zero areas and whatever, and just a lot of the populace, it can kind of go up and down a little bit, but it's pretty high. But the military has really high morale most of the time, and I don't know how.
It's funny because something you just
anyway, I haven't seen him smile that much since. I'm sorry, but the point was, it's that kind of thing I've seen from babushkas to military to really important civil servants. All of them are sacrificing. They're not asking anything of anybody. They're not asking foreign militaries to come send troops and help them. I have not heard that once when they're coming, what they're doing. Not one time. I don't know about you. No. Yeah, they ask for material. They ask for supply. They ask for information. That they are not asking people to fight their war.
No.
And they were the ones attacked. If it was me, I would. How do you not? But that is not what they're asking, because I don't know if they consider it unreasonable or whatever. But I'm just saying that the morale effect, when they see that they have outside support, when they have, whether it's items or the people involved or whatever, it means the world. They're not alone. They're not in it by themselves. And what they're fighting for is shared by other people, other places, not just them because they're attacked or whatever. Yeah, it's massive.
I think it's relatable.
He's had, I think, a huge, much more ripple effect than that because of how broad his supply is and the different networks he works in. But even that doesn't matter. One person doing one thing a short amount of time, it all adds up. I'm not more special. He's not more special.
No, and that's what people also say. Hey, you're doing a lot. No, I always correct them. We're doing it together, because when I'm alone, I cannot do anything. I don't get the medical supplies. I get it because they know I ship it, and we're doing it together. And I always correct people when they say, "You're doing so much." No, we're doing it together.
Yeah,
because I cannot do this on my own.
I sure can't. I have to have something to drive. I can't do both. I cannot.
No.
What I do, there's no way to do more of anything. I only can do this.
You depend on others, right?
Absolutely,
so that's why our work together is so good. where he is not so strong, I'm stronger, and where I'm weak, he's stronger, and we both
covering
know
each
that.
other's weaknesses.
all the time.
Yeah,
We talk
mean-
about like the shift
Yeah.
with who can go where and how far and whatever.
Yeah.
It's not something I want to do, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
And I see, how many times do you think that thought, right? I mean, I've seen so many, like, he doesn't want to get out and go to a warehouse and sort stuff or accept stuff and make trips around or whatever when it's freezing cold, the wind's blowing, and he's going to be the only one doing it, and it's kind of a large job. And he's got other things he has to do to maintain in life, other responsibilities.
Yeah.
And this isn't just one day or a couple weeks or a couple months. He's been doing it for a couple years.
It's a commitment for
You know.
now 2 years already, and
Yeah.
I think we're not done yet. So
Yeah, we don't have
Yeah.
bosses. We don't have,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact, sometimes you have to, there's a reason why I formed Civilian Shield in the US there's a reason why it was formed. It's not just fundraising. It's for the ability to help inform, but also to be able to be a resource to handle assets and things in a responsible way, in a transparent way.
Right.
That is often an issue with NGOs because in a short time, no NGOs are just usually sitting around waiting for a war to happen so they can help logistically or do stuff, right? So there's all these little and medium NGOs that jump in immediately because they can pivot fast. They can adapt because they don't have large donor bases with very tight mission statements that they have to hold to. Big NGOs have big budgets. They can do a lot, but they're slow to pivot or they're just too tight with their missions and their donors give them very narrow uses for everything. They can't adapt. They can't move. So little and medium ones, they're in right away, but they don't last long. They don't have the funding. And they also have missions that they have to pivot back to at some point. That's when the real challenge is. When it gets boring or when it gets people's visas expire and they all have to go home, which is 3 months in Poland, by the way. And then, believe me, I know the date. In that week, it went from thousands of people to tens of people immediately.
Yeah.
All the NGOs disappeared. There was 100 and something tents on the borderline or whatever right there. They were gone to, I think, 2 cell phone companies, by the way. Cell phone companies handing out free SIM cards. So good on them, but not enough, not for the amount of refugees coming over, which is still thousands a day at that point, at that one border. I don't know about the others, So at that point, that's the first challenge. And then the decisions that NGOs make, they start to be more and more a combination of what they can do and what they should do. And I think that tends more and more and more towards what they can or what they want to or what they're motivated by. And that's a problem because it doesn't fulfill the needs that are really going on.
This is also why I like what the independent people do. Like, for example, the YouTubers. You have a couple of big ones who do really good stuff with, for example, the NAFO with the F organization. Delivering drones, delivering vehicles. Like this Estonian guy, Artur, he is like an example, does a lot. You have multiple
Awesome.
of the other guys who do these things, and they are really they're well directed to what's needed. Same as with organizations as this supply chain. Before we go on to that, I'd shortly like to respond to a couple of things you said a while back, because I think that's also where lies the importance in us foreigners, speaking from the Ukrainian perspective, coming there and doing things. Actually, yesterday we had a conversation, and it was about why you go into Ukraine. And I said, to me, it's basically what you just said. It's like when you leave, it's not your problem anymore, and it's gone, because the people who are here from Ukraine, they will still be carrying these problems with them wherever they go.
Yeah.
Every day, every minute, every second.
Yeah, it doesn't matter
And
where they are.
and when we are here, I think I feel somewhat the same as what you feel. It's like you're being energized or something. It's like the interactions, I think you can attest to that. They're also energizing, the interactions you get, and it kind
With
of
people, sure.
it builds on each other. It's a bit of an positively infectious thing almost.
Absolutely.
empowering each other.
I can
Exactly.
definitely do everything without it 100%, but it is so much more, I don't want to say depressing, that's too strong and not quite accurate. But yeah, it's almost like there's an energy drain on you constantly without, if it's been too long since you see other people really kind of in the same motion, in the same goal. They don't have to be helping me or whatever. I just have to know they're doing it.
Yeah.
Like talking to Otto on the phone. I'm a person, before I came here, I don't like to talk on the phone with anybody ever. I don't like, I want a face-to-face conversation or something real. I just, it's not, I can't read their expressions and they can't read mine or whatever. It's just, I don't enjoy that type of conversation. I like more in depth, and real. Yeah. But I would say that I don't have that problem, like with Otto or with a couple of other people that I interact with in a professional capacity here. It's become a mix of that and friendship, of course. You form very tight bonds, but each time it's a huge, like you said, energy boost or encouragement, or I just feel so much lighter. I don't feel drained. And I thought it was so, I don't know, I didn't think I worked that way. I thought it was so silly when I first realized I was experiencing that. I think it was in Ukraine. It was from some Ukrainian people. I hadn't known them before, whatever, and I saw what they were doing. And I was just like, that's very similar to how I approach things and whatever. And that's what I was just like, that is so awesome. I love knowing that they're doing that. I hope there's so many more. Like if I see them, there's got to be more. And I think that, with so many things that we're doing, like Olga, it had been a while before I met her. I think I met her here when I came here. Yeah. I didn't meet her on any of the trips. No. And so, like, meeting her, she's infectious. I love her to death. She's amazing. And it's because of those type of reasons. The Netherlands drivers that I hitched a ride up here with some other, they're bringing up some refugees. They gave me a ride. They even provided a room. They got permission to provide a room. I didn't expect them to, but they appreciated what they thought was my sacrifices and wanted to support it. Just meeting them and knowing what they're doing and the way they thought about it, why they're doing it. That's what mattered to me. I'll never forget their names, their faces. I'll carry it around. It makes me see the world better than I did.
And is it like you miss that, or is that, not sure if that is a good question. You miss that in the US, or is that?
My work, I didn't have a lot of social life, etc., because I was very focused on both of my careers were like a minimum of 45 to 60 hours a week each. And I had also other, like, families, relationships, et cetera, outside. That's it. So there wasn't a lot of social life or whatever. And there was not a lot of room. I don't really care for the news. I care about facts, so I read the news like that. But, so with just so much of the negative influence from the law enforcement things, because there's a lot of bad stories constant and whatever, you see a lot of negative, a lot. It's hard to process, hard to deal with. So you're very focused on that and all the training necessary to do that job safely and things like that. And so it's just kind of a trending negative view of human behavior on average, of how you see humanity or how you see the average human.
So this experience sort of freed you from
it's
that.
The opposite. Yeah. Not only freed me, it's brought it back up.
And it
just by witnessing with what people are doing and the explanations of why, and me seeing how much is in common or admiring them and being a little bit stronger because they put something a different way that's, different than I do, but better, that better vocalizes, better it's a better way to think, a shorter, more clear way to think about how I feel already. They're thinking about it more clear with more wisdom, and I grow from that. There's so many things. I could talk about it so long. There's just
but it's very relatable.
So many things I get out of it. Selfishly,
I feel like there's a lot of personal growth coming out of this situation, coming from the Corona period. I didn't feel really good at all because I had slacked on a lot of things, and I wasn't doing some stuff the way I wanted to do it. Then Ukraine started. Well, like I've told before on this podcast series, been frozen a bit in the beginning. But from the moment I met your guys, because I knew I wanted to do something, and then I had like the opportunity to also do something and grow in that, and grow while doing and learning and meeting all these people.
It's hard to know how.
It's the combination of the personal growth, but also like. What you said, the energy, the positive energy that people bring in such a pretty negative situation, which is contradictory, right?
And what you also see is, I see it in your growth. We worked through the trip. I also had somebody else, but I also had somebody in Poland who wants to do everything themselves, but was running out of energy. So good mentoring is also very important, and I did that also in the trips, preparing my drivers for what they could expect. It didn't happen any time, but people with traumas, people who are panicking, all that, I try to prepare everybody who's go there.
Even if
prepare.
it's just Poland.
And that was just Poland and some in Ukraine. And yeah, it's important, and that's how you see people grow.
Yeah. It's
And-
very satisfying.
And that's
sense of
yeah,
satisfaction, too.
yeah. I had a lot of. I was happy that I could do it because one guy had a little bit of a problem. He was just heading towards the border, and he had his green card for going over the border. It wasn't in the fan.
From the vehicle, right?
Yeah, so he was panicking, and I said, "If there's anything I can do, call me." He called me, 11:30 in the evening. Otto, help! I don't know what to do. Okay, listen. Where are you now? What's the plan? No, I brought him to you. They gave the stuff to him, and after he was back in Netherlands, we talked. There were some things didn't go well because he was a little bit in a panic, but now he's stronger than before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And knows a lot more.
And in the
Yeah.
end, the
And
stuff
he's
got
still a
delivered
volunteer.
because
Yeah.
you could pick it up and you
Yeah.
could take over the cargo.
Yeah, I it's really important to accept your, like you were saying about the logistics, wherever your use is, it's really important to accept that and not worry about the grass is greener on the other side.
Right.
Like the war
No.
tourism is a very real thing, and people, it's easy to get lost in that or not. If you don't know what skills you have, then it's hard to be useful to somebody else because when you show up, there's not really bosses around that can direct you. And
You have to
clearly-
know what your
Yeah.
use is, what your purpose is.
Exactly, and things
And
can
you have
change
to-
too fast sometimes.
Yeah, you
To
also
plan.
have to dare to step in.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I guess that you could describe that as leadership,
Yeah.
Yeah.
personal leadership.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think people that have that feeling though that they don't know what to do or they don't know how to do it, like you were describing to me, it wasn't in you. Obviously, you have a lot of passion and a lot of abilities and a lot of it's
The
more about
resources weren't there at that point.
Well, it's also it's so personally like I don't know your skills, and even if I did, I don't like I haven't lived my life in a brain that I've had them, and so that I see things in the patterns where it's useful or might be useful. Because really, most things are problem solving. Like in Ukraine, I would say 80% of my job to be successful is problem solving. Anybody can drive a truck, but things happen to derail your plan all the time. At least two, I'd say probably on average twice a week for the whole first year of the war. And we're talking, it doesn't matter if I plan something out for a month and a half. One phone call derails it and completely either cancels it or pushes out a minimum of a week because we have these other emergencies. I've had the middle of a phone call where I have to make a 90-degree angle and now I'm going 12 hours that way. And I don't even have time to drop off a load of got because it's not important anymore compared to what's going on here. So, I mean, you have to be able to be open-minded to that, accept it, whatever. And so what I mean is that's not unique to me, but it's the open-mindedness part that's helpful. And not really the
Flexibility.
initiative, the want to
Yeah.
do something is the most useful. The drive, the thought that this is bad, I want to resist it or do something to help push against it. That's what's useful. And the sad part is we need people, and I mean the war, not me, not whatever specifically, but obviously Otto can utilize this because he is a leader and he is a mentor and he does this collection. But anybody, any civilian can call somebody like Otto or contact somebody that's already doing the gathering or these type that has this knowledge and say, who do you need me to cold call to look for supply? Or where do you have supply that you don't have the time to go get it? I can go
When
get
do
it
you
and bring
need
it
extra
to you
hands,
so that you have extra time to gather even more because that's what you're good at. Or these kind of things. These are simple labor, small pieces type of things that are ultimately, if there's not, so supply is one of the most dwindling things, not just funds. It's
On
supply.
that note, I'd like to bridge you to the topic of what does a supply chain look like? How does it work
You're an expert there in many ways.
from the beginning to the end?
And then in 1 week, the complete warehouse was full again, and we had stuff left for the next trip.
Yeah, I just remember one guy
Seen that a lot.
we met in Poland at the border. He actually said that. It is kind of what I do this for, sort of like selfishness.
Yeah.
And we were
I
like,
love people that are that honest.
You're like a Venn diagram.
Yes, very much. And only we have multiple instead of just like one crossing area, like most Venn diagrams, we have many that cross over.
So people are depending on it. They need it for a good quality of life.
part of what I can do is if Otto's saying something about over here or something and it doesn't match up with what I've heard or what I understand, then I'm about to learn something or he is.
It's quite simple. You want to help, yes or no?
Козацькому роду